जी, अस्सलाम वालेकुम डॉक्टर साहब, अस्सलाम वालेकुम रिजवान, अस्सलाम वालेकुम डॉक्टर Arshad. Hello everyone, this is Hashim. Welcome to the third special interest group session on cybersecurity. Uh, so before we begin, just quickly, we have two speakers, so we'll be having a packed session. Quickly, some housekeeping rules. We'll have a question and answer session at the end. So please feel free to use that opportunity. Also, for those of you who are attending, who have been attending our sessions, you'll find some repetitions, but it's important that we take all the new members together along with the whole group. Um, Also, if you have any questions or you want to or you have any other query, you can also reach out to me at spinnlabs@spsnet.com after this session. With this, we can begin. The agenda for today's talk is we'll have an opening session, sorry, we will have opening remarks from Dr. Arshad Ali. He's the president of SPINN Labs and formerly the executive director of Higher Education Commission. After that, we'll have a session by Dr. Saad Malik from NAMAL. He has presented the part one of his talk in the last six session. Today, he'll be presenting the part two of his security management at university talk. Those of you who want to listen into that session, the recording is available at our website and YouTube channel. You can simply Google us and you'll be able to land at that video. If not, you can reach out to me. After Dr. Saad, we'll be having Rizwan Ali, who is the senior cybersecurity architect for SPS. He presented in the last session some of the basics on how you can set up a security operations center at your university. Today, he'll be taking it a step further and will elaborate on some of the advanced stages of setting up a SOC. And if the time permits, we will be taking it into a more focused technology area of QRadar also. With this, we will be moving on to the general discussion session, which is the Q&A part. Uh, I can now hand it over to Dr. Dr. Arshad Ali. Sir, over to you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much, Saad, as well as Rizwan. Nice to see you over here. So, as far as cybersecurity is concerned, as far as higher education is concerned, and especially the universities we talk about, I have been very closely associated over the past almost 40 years. मैं यूनिवर्सिटी में पढ़ाता भी रहा हूँ, मैनेज भी करता रहा हूँ, और इसमें जो एक चीज़ मैंने ऑब्जर्व की है वो ये है कि हमारी यूनिवर्सिटियों में इस चीज़ की अंडरस्टैंडिंग और अवेयरनेस एज वेल एज पॉलिसीज़ और स्किल लेवल पे बहुत ही कम है. अगर आप देखें, आई वाज जस्ट लुकिंग एट सर्टेन स्टैटिस्टिक. जो पेंसिल्वेनिया यूनिवर्सिटी है उसको 20 मिलियन अटैक्स पर डे उसको होते हैं. सम आर माइनर, सम आर मेजर. सो यू इमेजिन कि हमारी यूनिवर्सिटियों में भी देयर वुड ऑलवेज बी सर्टेन नंबर ऑफ अटैक्स. और हमारी यूनिवर्सिटियों में जो फैकल्टी है और सीनियर मैनेजमेंट है, दे नो मोर देन 90% जो फायरवॉल्स होती हैं वो डिफ़ॉल्ट पे कॉन्फ़िगर्ड होती हैं. एट द सेम टाइम हमारे पास बहुत सारे हेटेरोजेनियस सिस्टम्स होते हैं और उसमें वी यूज्ड दो सिस्टम्स ओवर द टाइम, और समटाइम्स हैक सिस्टम भी होते हैं. तो उसमें ना ही हम उनको अपग्रेड कर रहे होते हैं और ना ही हम पैचेस वगैरह यूज़ कर रहे होते हैं, जिसकी वजह से ये हमारी यूनिवर्सिटीज़ के लिए बहुत सीरियस थ्रेट होता है. और आपने देखा होगा बहुत दफ़ा कोई हमारी मिनिस्ट्रीज़ की वेबसाइट पे भी आके कोई लिख के चला जाता है, और इसी तरीके से जो बाकी हमारे इवन सिक्योरिटी इंस्टीट्यूशन हैं वहाँ पे भी बहुत सारे अटैक्स ऑब्जर्व करने को मिल रहे होते हैं. और अगर आप यूनिवर्सिटीज़ में देखें, स्पेशली अगर हॉस्टल भी हैं, तो 10% ऑफ द स्टूडेंट्स आर यूजिंग 90% ऑफ द इंटरनेट बैंडविड्थ विच इज़ अवेलेबल. और उसकी वजह ये है, देयर इज़ हार्डली एनी वे दोज कैन बी मॉनिटर्ड who is entering into the system, what kind of traces are there, so उसकी कोई observation नहीं होती है। और उसकी वजह जिस तरीके से मैंने बताया है कि अनपैक्ड ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम है, फिर ईमेल फिल्टरिंग का भी कोई मैकेनिज्म नहीं है, एक्सेस कंट्रोल्स की डेफिनेशंस या तो है ही नहीं, बहुत सारे दफ़ा एक ही क्लास के लिए एक ही ईमेल एड्रेस यूज़ हो रहा होता है, उसको हर स्टूडेंट एक्सेस कर रहा होता है और उसका पासवर्ड भी बड़ा ओपन किस्म का होता है। फिर डेटा बैक्स वगैरह का कोई सिक्योरिटी के हवाले से मैकेनिज्म नहीं है, इनसफिशिएंट यूजर ट्रेनिंग है, इसी तरह सिक्योरिटी की पॉलिसीज की कोई डेफिनेशन नहीं है। तो और इन सब की जो मेन वजह है वो सीरियस शॉर्टेज ऑफ टैलेंट है साइबर सिक्योरिटी के एरिया में। वो एकेडमिक लेवल पे भी है, वो प्रैक्टिकल लेवल पे भी है, जिसकी वजह से हमने ये सोचा कि कम से कम हम यूनिवर्सिटीज़ को इतनी अवेयरनेस और एक्सपर्टीज़ क्रिएट कर दें कि यूनिवर्सिटीज़ में जो सब्जेक्ट सिक्योरिटी रिलेटेड पढ़ाए जाते हैं, while the courses are being taught, उसके साथ इंटरनेशनल सर्टिफिकेशंस अगर लोग कर लें और इसी तरीके से जो आपके सिस्टम्स अवेलेबल हैं, दे आर फ्रीली एक्सेसिबल फ्रॉम रिप्यूटेबल वेंडर्स, तो उनको उन पे वो अपनी लैब एक्सरसाइज वगैरह कर लें तो उनको एक हैंड्स ऑन एक्सपीरियंस हो जाएगा, जिसकी वजह से ना सिर्फ ये कि उनकी जॉब अपॉर्चुनिटीज बेहतर हो जाएंगी, हमारे जो मुल्क का साइबर सिक्योरिटी का इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है दैट विल आल्सो इम्प्रूव। सो दोज आर दी थिंग्स व्हिच आई वांटेड टू शेयर। और आज डॉक्टर साद और डॉक्टर रिजवान का फोकस भी यही होगा कि हम अपनी यूनिवर्सिटीज़ में मॉनिटरिंग और सिक्योरिटी मैनेजमेंट के जो सिस्टम्स हैं वो किस तरीके से एस्टेब्लिश कर रहे होते हैं। सो विद दैट आई विल हैंड ओवर बैक टू हाशिम फॉर फर्दर प्रोसीडिंग्स। आई एम श्योर इट विल बी वेरी बेनिफिशियल फॉर एवरीवन। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Thank you, Dr. Saad. We have our next speaker, Dr. Saad Malik from Namar. Dr. Saad, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Arshad. आपने बहुत अच्छा इंट्रोडक्शन दिया एंड आई टोटली एग्री विथ यू कि पाकिस्तान में स्पेसिफिकली एकेडमिक्स में भी और इंडस्ट्री में भी सिक्योरिटी के ऊपर एक शॉर्टफॉल है। मतलब आई बीइंग अ टेलीकॉम इंजीनियर, टेलीकॉम इंडस्ट्री में सिक्योरिटी इज़ अ मेजर कंसर्न, but while being in the academia, it has been observed as it is. अच्छा, आज की जो टॉक है that is divided into two parts. इसका जो पहला पार्ट था वो पिछली दफ़ा हम लोगों ने कवर कर लिया। अच्छा, I tend to take things in a different perspective. I don't like to go or rush into solutions till the time I understand what are the basics. तो पिछली टॉक भी आपने देखा होगा कि बहुत ही बेसिक लेवल पे थी, और आज वाली जो टॉक है दैट इज़ आल्सो फोकस्ड on actually grasping the basics before delving into the complexities of cybersecurity. आज की जो टॉक का मकसद है that is, let us just review a campus network for a denial of service attack. Let's understand कि denial of service attack actually start कहाँ से होता है, वजह क्या बनती है उसकी, and where does the coding part actually helps in a DOS attack. अच्छा, having said that, I will request Rizwan to actually talk about the QRadar, which is one of the network monitoring systems, so that it helps in securing the network. मेरी जो talk है that is totally different from QRadar's perspective, लेकिन it will actually feed into QRadar, why QRadar actually likes to get logs from different servers and assess the behaviors of the traffic and then determine if there's a critical attack going on. So having said that, let's bismillah. If you can see the screen.
We can.
Very nice. So this is a typical example of a campus network where we have some users which are accessing the learning management system, as we talked about it in the previous lecture or talk. So on the top the right side, there's a person who's also one of the users of the campus, but he is connected to the network via internet. I don't like to use the term internet because it is a little bit dubious. So I call internet as network of networks. So we have a lot. So we have got lots of networks in the world. One of them would be a campus network at NUML. Another would be a campus network at some other universities, such as NUST, or in Islamia International, or SPS network hoga. So all those networks are interconnected. And that is typically represented by a cloud because there are so many devices behind the cloud, so many routers and so many switches. We don't want to get into the complexities how the routers interconnect these networks. What we want to know is, or what we are actually concerned with is that anybody who is linked to a network of networks, that is internet, and your campus network is interconnected with that, he will have access to any server, whether it is a database server or any device connected to your network. Okay, having said that, lastly, we identified here there are some things that need to be, some assets that need to be secured. And some of those assets are basically the information residing in the learning management system server, information residing in the PDAs or the smartphones or the laptops or desktops, whether in the faculty offices or in the staff's offices or even in the students' offices. So basically, we are trying to secure the leakage of information from such devices. In addition to that, since the network devices are there to help us in assisting the flow of information, their configurations need to be secured as well. We don't want anybody to change their configuration at will and get access to our network. Having said that, let us first understand what is a denial of service attack. So we have a campus network here, and a user is waiting for the server to provide it some information. And this user is a legitimate user. That means he's part of the campus faculty, and he's trying to access this server, the blue one, but he is unable to extract that information. अच्छा, analysis करने के बाद पता ये चला कि हमारा जो server है, that was not powered down. It was not malfunctioning. It was working perfectly fine. However, it was servicing another user from the internet continuously. So much so that all the services were actually, the server was so busy in servicing user 2 that it could not service any other legitimate user. A basic denial of service attack. So to understand how this denial of service attack works, we need to go back to the basics. And as I said earlier, मेरी approach हमेशा ये होती है, बल्कि मेरे supervisor ने हमेशा मुझे समझाया था कि जी, you have to go back to the drawing board. मतलब जब आप technical drawing करते हैं ना, you have to go back to the drawing board and do the basic drawing from scratch. अच्छा जी, to understand the denial of service, we need to understand how the information is accessed over the network. Or before we do that, we need to understand how the information is actually stored in a computer and how the computer actually makes it available to the network, right? So we will start by understanding what are the building blocks of a computer. So in a campus network, we have got computers. We have got servers, which are basically computers. We have got routers, switches, wireless access points. All of these network devices comprises of a computer in itself. So कोई भी इनमें से कोई भी device ऐसी नहीं होती जिसके अंदर कोई working computer ना हो. So embedded systems का हम सब ने नाम सुना होगा. So basically these are all examples of embedded systems or personal computers, general purpose computing machines. Having said that, any computer that we take today, a modern computer, will have a CPU. Will have a CPU, a central processing unit, जिसमें it will just process whatever information or data is passed to. That information or data has to be placed somewhere in the memory. And there are certain types of memories. One of them is the RAM, the other is in the hard disk. Another one could be the CD or DVD. These are all different types of memories from which the applications may run, the information could be placed, the data could be retrieved. Having processed these data files or extracting the information from it, this needs to be sent over to some peripherals, input and output devices. So typically a CPU has certain registers, some cache memories to improve its performance, an arithmetic logic unit, and some path control logic. RAM has, again, a structure of different memory spaces, and there's a memory controller which allows the CPU to place some data or instruction in the RAM. Again, this memory, this RAM, plays a significant role. And then amongst the peripherals, the important peripherals are the keyboard or the mouse that we use regularly for general purpose computing, a display controller so that we could see what's happening on the computer, a network interface card, which allows this computer to talk over the network, and other peripherals such as USB-based USB hub soaking to connect to other devices like your smartphones or USB-based printers, or if you would like to connect to a projector. So in essence, any network device, whether it is a host or a network device which is passing the information, has a computer working underneath it. So when we say there's a computer working underneath it, that means it is doing something. It is doing basically, it is trying to run some instructions, which we generally call an application code, in a way that it executes those instructions to do something which we want it to do. For example, a network device would be instructed to route the traffic from point A to point B. A general purpose computer would be required to do some computation or big data analysis, जिसके ऊपर आप मतलब complex algorithms ले. लेकिन to understand the crux, what the computer does is, let's assume we want this computer to do a simple operation, A plus B, 2 plus 1. So 2 plus 1 would be something written in a code either in the form of an assembly code or a C code, Java code, Python. Any programming language can be used to write a code that will do A plus B. So how does that code actually translate and is executed in a computer? Let me go through the steps first. So this code that we have written will be compiled in a machine language and will reside in the hard disk or the CD-ROM or an external device. Let's assume for this case that it resides in the hard disk. So this application code will be executed. Let's not go into the details at the moment how this application code gets executed. We do it generally in the terminal or whenever we execute a command, or Windows में जब आप application पे double click करते हैं, so we are running that application. So whenever we are executing an application, basically all that code is transferred to the RAM, and from that RAM, each of the instructions are fetched in the CPU one at a time. And the data is also fetched in the CPU, placed in the registers. The ALU computes something, puts the results in another register, and from that register, the result is placed back into the RAM. And from the RAM, it can be placed back in the hard disk memory or sent over the network if required. Now, the point to note here is when we are talking about a code or the result, the code and the result is placed in the memory in the form of files. So although we use files regularly in our day-to-day activity, but we do not understand the significance of files. So the point to note here is that anything that is placed in the memory is in the form of files. And these files may or may not be accessible via the network or not. So we want to actually secure these files so that illegitimate or intruders are unable to access these files. Point one. Now, a general purpose computer or a modern day computer does not do just 2 plus 1 or A plus B or A minus B. It does several other tasks in addition to a simple application. When we are doing multiple operations or multiple applications are running on a computer, there needs to be a system which could actually manage the CPU and the memory in an efficient way so that different applications could run properly. I hope this point is clear. So the purpose of operating system is to not only manage the resources in a computer, it is to actually allocate those resources to all the applications that need it in a timely way. And having said that, the oldest operating system which is used today extensively is Unix philosophy based, and modern Red Hat Linux is basically Unix based. Mac OS is based on Unix. System V, which is extensively used in telecom industry, is also Unix based. And currently Linux, which is an open source, also derived its source code from the Unix philosophy. So let us go into a bit deeper how the operating system manages the files. Okay. Achha, before going into that, I would put another scenario with you. I would share that. Let's say we want to send these results over the network to another computer. So what would happen? Another piece of code will run in the computer. Let's say it is a networking code. It will encapsulate the results file into another file, which will be called a parcel. And that parcel is transferred to the network interface card and sent over the network. Now, in modern operating system, all this application which deals with the networking part is complex, and modern operating systems include all those source codes within their kernel. So operating systems that deal with the computer, such as Unix, they not only support multiple tasking, they also support the networking aspect. So when they are talking about networking, they also provide an API, applications programmer interface, so that the applications could send messages across the network using these APIs. And one of the most popular API used today in the world is Socket API. Any questions so far? Nice. Challenge. Let's move ahead. Let's talk about operating system and how operating system helps us in establishing a network within the system, as well as networking capabilities to that system. So a multitasking operating system such as Unix, Linux, or Windows, let's say that is this operating system. It considers all those applications which are trying to run on the hardware as processes. Okay, so process number 1, process number 2 to n processes. All these applications will be considered a process. The role of operating system is to manage these processes in a unique way, providing ample CPU time, ample memory spaces, interface to the network, interface to the standard input-output, so that the process executes properly.
Excuse me, Dr. Sorry, yeah, just to alert you, 5 minutes remaining.
Thank you. If you look at a Linux architecture in a very simplified way, all the processes, they will reside in the in a special space in memory, which is called the user space. And the operating system, it is also a piece of code that has to reside in the memory. It will reside in the kernel space. So operating system basically manages all the user space in a way that the processes do not intermingle, do not left unfinished, and all the processes get the requisite resources. One of the most important things that we must understand is that when we are writing an application which has to run on a network, that application has to has a proper interface with the operating system through the system call interface. And the system call interface provides basically an interface from the, basically isolates the user applications from the internal processes being run by the kernel itself. So kernel here in the operating system, basically the core brain of the operating system. Just like the CPU is the brains of the computer, the kernel is the brain, the software brain of the operating system. It manages how and when the process is going to execute, how much memory it is going to get, when and how to pass the data, instruction, and multitasking things. Some of the subsystems of a kernel are process management, memory management, architecture-dependent code for the microprocessor. It also manages the virtual file system. It also has a network stack. It has a device driver and many more things. What we are interested in is how would an application use the network stack to actually send messages across, right? Now, this network stack, if the audience is not aware of the network protocols, this network stack actually incorporates all those codes for inter-networking based on, say, TCP over IP, say UDP over IP, or raw sockets over IP. In addition to that, we have got Unix-based networking, we have got IBM-based network. There are so many different network protocols, and this network stack has the source code or the necessary applications code for networking protocols. So we don't have to write the networking protocols, we just need to use them. If you want to use these network protocols, you need to have a certain API. The socket API is the interface that we can use to write the programs. So now the socket API gives us a certain set of features, such as socket, listen, bind, accept, and miscellaneous functions, which help us in sending the message from an application over the network. I'm not going to go into the details how socket programming is done, but the beauty of Linux or Unix-based operating system is that there are certain system calls which are available to any API which has a system call interface. So the socket API has certain functions, and it will use existing read, write, and other fork and execute functions to manage the processes, but those processes are going to be sent over the network. So अगर मैं बड़े आराम से बात करूं, तो अगर आप मल्टीटास्किंग की बात करते हैं, तो एक ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम में अगर एक से ज़्यादा प्रोसेसेस कम्युनिकेट कर रहे हैं, तो लेट्स अज्यूम कि वन एप्लीकेशन इज ट्राइंग टू कम्युनिकेट विद अनदर एप्लीकेशन, सो इट इज़ in essence an inter-process communication. But when we are talking about a network-based application, one process is running on one system, the other process is running on a system which is physically far away. Okay? When we have a physical distance involved, these processes need to communicate in a different way. And that is where the network stack and this socket API and system calls come into play. Okay, Ji. Let me give you a very simple example. Having said about the socket, so this piece of headers, this is a C program, which is basically running a server. So this piece of code that I'm showing right now with you is basically a server that sends the current date and time over the network. Any application, which is normally called a client application, when it accesses this server, it will get the date and time. The important thing that I need to discuss with you is, if you look at that hash-defined backlog number 128, now if you keep that number with you, hash-defined backlog 128 next to the blue arrow, and next to the red arrow, there's a function called listening something, and there's a backlog number over here. Now, my point here is this server is written in a way that it will serve at least 128 clients, not simultaneously, iteratively. So if one client requests the current day and time from the server, as soon as it is serviced, the next client in the queue will get its request done. So simultaneously, if 128 requests are sent to this server, then iteratively, one by one, 128 requests will be serviced, but 129th request will be dropped. Now, this is the key point here. We are using Sockets API, we are using Linux kernel, we are using a very secure networking protocol, a very well-defined TCP/IP protocol, but within the protocol, during the programming, there's an implementation issue. I won't say it an issue, but it is something related to implementation. So during coding, we just don't want any client to be left, right? For that, we gave this backlog number. Now, certain malicious users who understand network programming use this backlog facility as a malpractice. Now, coming back to this picture, so when a user is repeatedly sending requests to a server, is basically he is trying to attempt all those connections, and the server is unable to establish new connections for the legitimate user. So in this way, the legitimate users are unable to get the information from the server, and we consider that as an attack to our server. With this, I will stop my presentation, and there's another thing that I would like to discuss, and then Rizwan can take over. What is the way forward? Let's say there's a DOS attack. So what would be the next step to resolve such an attack? One of the things could be that we could code our servers in a way कि अगर किसी एक user की IP address से आपके पास बहुत ज़्यादा request आ रही है, तो you could block them. This is generally done. What if the user is intelligent enough to actually use many IP addresses to attack the server simultaneously? How are we going to distinguish so many IP addresses from the illegitimate, from a legitimate to an illegitimate user? This is where the use of QRadar comes into play. So we need to understand the behavior of traffic coming in and out of the network, and the users who are actually accessing the server as well.
So
having said that, Gigi.
Also, Dr. Saab, I'll like to point it out over here. Even if you do code KR, if there are multiple requests from a single IP address coming to your server, in that case, what can happen is all of the requests that are coming from a single IP address, they can also be legitimate. In that case, you will also have to see KR ye kahin mein false positive. A person that is supposed to be sending the request to the server कि मैं उसको तो नहीं block कर रहा. If we are going to go into building a kind of like a mechanism into your server to block multiple requests from one IP address, so there are pitfalls to that.
True, very true.
Yeah. So, Dr. Saab, if you want, I can take over from here.
Gigi, bilkul, please.
Okay. So, guys, I think Dr. Arshad gave a kind of a good comprehensive overview of what are some of the threats to the universities, and then Dr. Saad shared with us some of the real use case scenarios that he is facing at NAML. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move ahead and talk about to talk about some solutions, like how can we mitigate these things. For those of you who were in the previous SIG meeting, they would know that we did a presentation on SOC. So basically, what a SOC is, it's basically a security operations center, right? I had this discussion of what actually a SOC is. So basically, a SOC is a security operations center. And the purpose of SOC, there are many purposes of an organization having a SOC. Just as I had discussed in my previous meeting, like one of the in the previous SIG session, one of the many reasons that organization would want to have a SOC is for compliance requirements. It could be because of security risk that they want to mitigate. It could be that they need to have like an insight in what's going on in their organization, and there can be many more, right? So one of the basic or the main components of a SOC system is a SIM solution. And a SIM is nothing more than a security incident and event management system. And the reason that I'm going to talk about a little more about SIM is because Dr. Saad has laid the groundwork. Okay, in any IT environment, there are different kinds of data, right? He talked about the systems themselves. He talked about some networks, right? So all of these systems, as well as networks, what they do is they have they have a mechanism of creating logs, right? And this is one of my favorite sayings that a system never lies. Whatever you do on a system, there's a log maintained of what has happened, right? And what a SIM solution does is it ingests those logs, right? And it keeps those logs in its database. And what it does is it correlates those database. If an event A has triggered an event B or C or D, what it would do is it will tell you kind of like it will give you a picture of like, okay, event A occurred, and that's what happened after event A had occurred. It triggered an event B and C and so on and so forth. So it will give us a kind of an overview of what's happening in our organization. So one of the things that I want to talk to you about is that there is logs that is coming from these systems, and then there are network devices. There are different kind of network devices, and the network devices, they do create logs, but the important thing that they also create in addition to logs is something called flows. All of the network devices, pretty much most of the network devices, they have a standard format for creating flows. And flows is nothing else than who sent the packet to what IP sent an packet to what destination, and what was the header of that packet. Nothing more than that. That's the general definition of a flow. So all of the network devices such as Cisco, Juniper, and God knows how many there are, right? All of them, they have their formats of log. For example, NetFlow is one of the industry standards for flow forwarding for most of the Cisco devices and so on and so forth. So Juniper has something similar. It's called JFlows, and they are being used as well. So what I'm going to talk about is that there are many SIM solutions right now present in the industry that can be used for collecting these logs and flow information. They all have their merits and they all have their demerits and so on and so forth. But the one that we are going to talk about in this particular sixth session is IBM's QRadar. IBM QRadar has been around for like 7 to almost like 7 years. They were acquired a company by IBM. Before that, IBM used something that was called TSOM in order to get the log monitoring and so on and so forth. So what it basically does is all of that data point that Dr. Saad was mentioning to, for such as firewall events, antivirus events, network information, intrusion detection systems, and all of that data. What we do is we send that data to a SIM solution. That can be any SIM solution. It could be Splunk, it could be QRadar, Logarithm, you name it. What it will do is this data will be captured in the SIM, and then it will be transformed into a way that is user friendly. And when I say user friendly, imagine there are devices that are creating like millions of logs. And I'm not talking about millions of log over periods of days. I'm talking about millions of log over periods of like minutes, right? So humanly, it's not even possible for a people or even a group of people to go through those logs and get valuable information out of it. What does a SOC do? Everything that comes into a SIM solution, based on that, a SOC aggregates and correlates. It provides reporting, and it also provides that information for further research and development. The most important part is threat intelligence. It will provide you all the threats that are coming into your organization. The last meeting that we had, we went over this presentation that was about building a SOC in your environment, right? And for those of you who missed that meeting, they can always get these slides from the slide deck. They can email me or Hashim to get those slides, right? But the most important slide, I will not go over the whole of the slide again, but what this slide does is it tells you what a SOC is. Why do organizations need a SOC? If you if you are trying to build a SOC, or if you have a SOC, what kind of skill set the people in that SOC need. And this is the most important, or I think this slide is my favorite slide, right? Whenever any organization, whether it's a higher education organization, it's a public, private, or military, or government, whatever, right? Whenever they start up a SOC, they should be clear in their head what they require from this SOC, right? What's the primary purpose of the SOC that you are trying to establish? As I said, and it's explained in this presentation earlier as well, that there can be many motives of setting up a SOC. First of all, it can be compliance, it can be threat intelligence, it can be just the to have a visibility or insight into your environment, and so on and so forth, right? What are the specific tasks that are going to be assigned to that SOC, right? Who are the consumers of that information? When I say the consumer of the information, it again goes back to, in an IT organization, there's not just one set of people who would require this information. If there is a risk officer, he would require certain types of reports from SOC in order to do his job. The operational team would need a certain type of reports from the SOC in order to do their work as well. For example, as Dr. Saad said, if a DOS is happening, a system administrator won't know that a DOS is happening unless someone from his end users that got affected, or to whom that service was not accessible, calls in and say, hey, I'm having this issue. Can you check out what's happening? Right? So what a SOC can do is they can proactively tell you like, hey, we are seeing a bunch of connections that are being made to this server by this IP address. They will raise a flag saying like, hey, can you guys check out if it's legit or not? So in this case, before the end user gets affected, the SOC has already set in motion the whole train of for the lack of better term, I would say tickets, in order to have that issue resolved before the end user gets affected. So who is the ultimate stakeholder? So when I talk about the stakeholder, it's again comes back to like there are different departments, and all of those departments have some stake in setting up a SOC. Operations team, they need to have insights, they need to have logs. Like whenever someone talks about like, hey, we want to have troubleshooting done, the first thing that they do is they go to the logs, right? So if you have the logs in an aggregated place, it's easier to provide access to different groups of people to those logs. What types of security events will eventually be fed into SOC for monitoring, right? And then another important part is that every organization have some kind of written formal or informal security policy to which they try to adhere to, right? In that regard, we have spoken like a couple of weeks ago, Noman gave a presentation on NIST saying that, okay, if you want to follow a security policy, you would want to go over a framework, and one of those frameworks is NIST, right? So again, this all feeds into like, if you have a security policy, you want to know what kind of security events or what kind of policies would you adhere to. And if someone is not following a security policy, how would you manage some controls, or how would you, first of all, how would you know if someone is following the security policy or not? So again, there are controls in place that would make sure that people are following the security policies. And if someone is not, and there are some kinds of anomalies, a SIM solution would let you know that those incidents. So that was my kind of like a quick fire hydrant type of thing on SOC and SIM. Do you guys have any questions? I guess no. Okay, so then second part of this presentation, I would want to go over like these two documents. First of these document is like, what would you require if you want to go over and build a SOC in your organization? So first again, the building SOC slide deck that is already shared. You can go over that. and see and try to answer some of the questions that are in that presentation. Like, why would you want to build your SOC? What would be the ultimate end goal of getting that SOC? And what would you achieve after you have set up a SOC? So as far as our goals are concerned, as Dr. Saab said, we have so much we have so much potential. Like there are a lot of like universities, and all of these universities, the one of the first things that people, or at least the students, when they are get out of the university, they think is like, where are we going to get where are we going to get hired, right? So in order for those students to get their money's worth in the industry, they would want to know what is the most what is prevailing in the IT industry. Like security is kind of like the hottest thing right now in the industry. And for you to avail that chance, like in one of the previous SIGs, I think it was Dr. Arshad who told or who gave some facts about, like, there are almost like close to 3 million jobs in just states that are for cybersecurity, and they do not have the bandwidth. And even our own in our own country, things are moving towards a compliance-based model. Like, so far so that if in states, if you don't have compliances around businesses, you are not even able to, like, how do you say, open up a shop, for a lack of better term. So in this document, what we have is like, we have like a set of things that you would want to do if you want to build up your SOC. That is like, again, the two slides that I've said. Then you can always go to QRadar, and all of these SIM solutions that are available in the market. All of these have their trial peers. All of these have their community editions, because they also want to have people know about these products, because the more people that know about the product, the more people would be able to use it, utilize it, and then ultimately at some point probably buy it, right? So installing of a QRadar community edition, again, we have this resource set up already, and we have a whole document of how you can get a community edition for QRadar, and what is required for setting up that QRadar community edition, what kind of resources you would be needing. And if you have any questions regarding this setting up of QRadar, again, you can either email me or Hashim, and we would be happy to help you out. Once you have that part, right, you know that you want to build a SOC, you have decided on a SIM solution that you are going to use in your SOC. The third and I guess the most important part would be people, because it all starts with people, process, and then technology, right? And in this case, we have kind of like gone backward. We have started with processes, we went to technology, and now we are talking about the people. But then again, I mean, it doesn't matter. But first of all, the first thing, or the most important thing is, you need to have skilled people who are going to be able to use that SIM in order to work in the SOC that you have set up, right? So in order to build that workforce, what we have over here is, we have well, IBM has a security learning academy, and in that security learning academy, what IBM has done is, it has provided you all the information regarding its IBM's QRadar, its architecture, like pretty much everything that the SIM solution has the capability of, and how it does it, not only in like PowerPoints and videos, but it also kind of like gives you actual hands-on labs, right? In order to go through those motions and to see how you can better utilize those resources. And I have like 9 minutes left, so I'll just take a couple of like 2 minutes just to give you a quick overview of like how the Security Learning Academy works, right? So if you just click on it, it will take you to the Security Learning Academy, and all you need to do is, whatever email address you have, you can link it with IBM to get your IBM ID. It's free for everyone.
Excuse me, Rizwan, sorry. You have about 2 minutes remaining. We have a hard stop at 6:30.
Okay, so basically this is the IBM Learning Academy. Once you get over here, you log in, and you would be able to see the courses that I was talking about. Okay, so if in this case, if you go to the IBM Learning Academy, you can always log in as here, right? In the course catalog, and the link that I sent you, or the link that is in this document, will actually take you directly to the QRadar, right? Just give me 1 second.
While Rizwan is actually getting hold of the link, I would just like to comment here. Since January, Rizwan has been telling us कि यार ये Learning Academy में से कुछ courses आप कर लें. So last week जब we were installing QRadar here at Namal Institute, we got into some problems in the installation part and the deployment architecture that was not clear to me. So I started taking these, getting started with QRadar tutorials, and they were very, very nice. It took me कितना एक दिन में मेरे ख्याल में 5-6 tutorials या इनके जो lectures हैं, they can be done easily, and they give you the insight. अच्छा, इसमें एक point जो I would like to comment is, Rizwan, अगर if I'm taking too much time, कि QRadar हो, साइबर सिक्योरिटी हो, IoT हो, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस हो, मशीन लर्निंग, मतलब इंक्रिप्शन, whatever field or subject that one is interested in, there should be a genuine interest in that field. अगर आपका interest नहीं है, तो all these talks, all these presentations, all these SIG meetings will be not at all beneficial, बल्कि in fact they will become boring over the passage of time. और जो bored काम होता है ना, that becomes a weight. A weight जो है ना, that is not good to मतलब carry with you. तो Rizwan, over to you.
Jay. So basically, this is the Security Learning Academy, and what we want you to do is, if you see, they have roadmaps for everything. You have QRadar fundamentals, SIM administrator, analyst, architect. So basically, what they do is they tell you for each roadmap all of the information that you need and what kind of like these are videos of like small chunks of information that they give you on pretty much all of the same solution, that is QRadar, right? And the good thing about is at the end of this course, it's not like, okay, I took a course and there's no recognition of that course after I've done that. They provide you skill badge, which you can acquire from IBM, and you can use it in your, it's provided by Acclaim, and you can use it in your you can use it on your Facebook, you can use it on your LinkedIn, all of those profiles. Even if you are sending somewhere your resume, you can use this skill badge, and it's good for people like us who are interviewing people to know, like, okay, this person has at least some interest in the field that he says he has interest, and he actually went and took some courses and has this skill badge. One step forward from this skill badge is, once you have gotten the introductory information, you can always go forward and say, hey, I want to build a career in cybersecurity. And what I'm going to do is, going from this skill badge, I want to go for an actual certification in IBM. And we can help you, and I'm pretty sure Hashim will show you how we can help you in getting those certifications. And we will even help you choose a career path if you guys are interested. But as all of this is being said, it goes back to Dr. Saad's comment. You will have to make an effort. You will have to have a willpower to make the decision to say, like, hey, I am interested in that. Otherwise, I mean, it's kind of like it will go away. It will be kind of like, I don't know, waste of time. And with that, I thank you all. Over to you, Hashim.
Thank you, Rizwan. Thank you, Dr. Saad. I think we took it really to the next level here today. We do have a hard stop at 6:30. I'm sure all of you have other commitments. I'll add to those of you who must now have some interest in the things that Rizwan has showed. I'm sure many of you already have. You can go to SPINN Labs website. ये मैं आपके साथ chat में भी share कर देता हूँ. वहाँ पे we have listed these courses. Also, the only difference between what Rizwan showed and what is listed there is that there is an opportunity available as certification lead. So in that opportunity, we incentivize people who are willing to take a leadership role in getting certified as on a particular technology. What that means is not just we'll be looking up to you for being yourself certified, but we'll be looking up to you as somebody who can get their fellows in their own universities and their own fellow students and faculty also certified. And we'll be reimbursing the cost of a successful certification completion. Also, we will be sharing the recordings. They are always available on our website. Also, the the PowerPoints are also available. Can you, if you can please mute yourself? I think there's a background noise. So, the recordings and the presentations will be shared with all of the participants. Also, those of you who want to go further deep into setting up a SOC at your university, or if you have a general interest in cybersecurity, we do have a monthly session where Rizwan has set aside 1 hour per month to work with those of you closely on one-on-one basis, and that session is scheduled on first Tuesday of each month. So if any one of you is interested, please send us an email at spinnlabs@spsnet.com. You will be receiving the invites. In this session, Rizwan will be available for the complete 1 hour, and you can ask him any queries or questions that you may have regarding setting up a SOC at your university. Normally, at the end of the session, we have a round of introductions. Since we have 3 minutes remaining, so I'll ask if anybody wants to unmute themselves and share with the audience their experiences and specifically their interest in cybersecurity. You're welcome to please share.
मेरा मशवरा होगा कि
जी
आप
सर।
थोड़ा नोट करते रहो, तो जो नए पार्टिसिपेंट हैं उनको थोड़ा सा इंट्रोडक्शन करवा दो।
Ji, sure. So we have, we can come back to you later. Next, we have Aisha Anwar.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, and a very good evening. So I'm Aisha Anwar from the University of Islamabad, and this is my first session of cybersecurity. I have attended the previous one, which was about IoT and which was around, I guess, Azure by Microsoft person. So my interest about cybersecurity is not much as compared to the other interest, but I joined this session to just get to know about cybersecurity and what's going around and what particular tools or certifications are in fashion nowadays, and so that I can convey it to my students and I can counsel them, and I can encourage them to get for it.
Mariam Yusuf, I'm just going to go quickly. If anybody wants to share, this is your platform. Feel free to share. Mariam Yusuf.
Assalamu alaikum.
Ji walaikum assalam.
I'm Mariam Yusuf from Park Austria for Hochschule University, and this is my first session of cybersecurity. And because I have a very special interest in pursuing a career in cybersecurity, so I just want to attend all these sessions to be start my career from now. I'm in second semester.
Wonderful.
And I'm doing Bachelor's of Computer Sciences.
Okay, sure. मैंने to Mariam and all of the rest of the participants chat में link भेजा है. Those of you who want to look at the certifications available, I would recommend to go to that session. Ji Rehan, you have raised your hand.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Welcome.
I'm Rehan Ahmed from Park Austria for Hochschule Institute, and I'm doing software engineering in a second semester. I am very interested in cybersecurity, and I learned using the Kali Linux, and some of the software just like Metasploitable and making of payloads, just like the vulnerability finding tools but I'm not sure how to pursue such a career. So now I'm here.
So this is really nice timing. We were working just a few days ago with people who have skills in Kali Linux and Metasploit to work on a project which we were developing a lab. So please get in touch with me. I have my email there. If you have skills, we really think we can make use of your skills, and you can certainly get to do some experiential projects. Next we have
Okay.
Qazi Arslan.
Assalamu alaikum. Am I audible? I'm
Yes.
Qazi Arslan from Namal Institute, Miawali. I am pursuing, I am doing BScs, and it's now my third year. I have a keen interest in cybersecurity, and from start of my BScs, I'm using Ubuntu and like this stuff. I have talked to my HOD about my interest, and as you know, there is not such a platform in the university through which we can start our career in cybersecurity. Like we are just studying the artificial intelligence course, machine learning, or like all that stuff. So when I came to know about SPS, so I was also working as a student intern in SPS, and I've done two projects. Yes, like one was of Solar, and second one is with ECP. So now I am really hopeful that SPS will provide some platform to get my career started in cybersecurity, and I'm likely to do an FIP in cybersecurity as well.
Absolutely. So again, go to the link, check out the certifications listed there, see what area you find most interest in, and reach out to me. I can connect you with the folks who are specialists in cybersecurity, just like Rizwan. Attend the cybersecurity, the setting up a SOC session, the dedicated session of setting up a SOC next Tuesday in the afternoons. Send me an email, I'll send you an invite also, and we can take it from there. Next we have Sabiha. All right. So if anybody else would care to add anything else, we can close the session. If not, that's fine also. You can always reach out to us on spinlabs@spsnet.com. We'll be glad to address any of your queries. Our next session is going to be 4 weeks from now on cybersecurity. Immediately in the coming week, we have the special interest group session on artificial intelligence. So stay tuned for for the invites on those sessions. Keep checking your emails. With this, Dr. Saab, would you like to add anything? Dr. Arshad, would you like to add?
Thank you very much. It was very good. Or the participants have shown a lot of interest. और इंशाल्लाह we will make every possible effort कि हम लोगों को empower भी करें और अपनी universities को और जो भी institutions हैं उनको secure भी करें.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Saab. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your time. I really hope you found this session useful. With this, we can close. Take care and Allah Hafiz.